Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to look at Grixis Midrange in Standard. We're going to look at card choices, we're going to look at how to play the deck, and why to play this deck in Standard, maybe even why it's the most popular deck in Standard. Let's jump into it. So this is a Grixis Midrange deck. Even, one might say, leaning a little bit towards control. Everything in the deck is either a 1-for-1 removal spell, a creature that either gives you card advantage or as a removal spell or has a replacement effect in and of themselves, or spells that give you giant amounts of advantage in different ways, whether it be mana or card or life or whatever. And it's just about getting that card advantage, getting that life advantage, getting that mana advantage, and then leveraging that with those 1-for-1 removal spells and counter spells. The mana base is really straightforward. I think the only thing of note in the mana base that is important to mention is there's a lot of black sources because of Invoke Despair. We only run the basic swamps because we need most of our sources to be black. We have to play the Shivan Reefs to be able to cast our spells, and we play an Otawara, and really any more than those cards being non-black lands makes casting Invoke Despair really annoying. Invoke Despair being 4 black and 1 other. But to start with Invoke Despair is an amazing finisher. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life, and you draw a card and you repeat the process for an enchantment and Planeswalker. This can get rid of problematic enchantments, which these colors have kind of a hard time doing. And most of the time, like removes a creature, removes an enchantment, they lose 2 life and you draw a card, and that is an amazing card in and of itself. If you do it into an empty board, they lose 6, you draw 3. If they have 1 good creature, they sacrifice it, you draw 2, they lose 4. Like, it's really incredible, and works alongside the original plan of this deck, which is basically like keep the board clear and like apply some pressure. And if you keep the board clear, they play a bomb, we Invoke Despair, we draw cards to kill their bomb. It's very good. Kind of look at these 1-for-1 removal spells. We're playing a cut down and finishing off with cut downs in the sideboard. This is our aggro deterrent. You know, it's good against mono red, good against soldiers, etc. We're playing 2 Go for the Throat. Previous versions of the deck played more Go for the Throat, but the blue-red ramp deck, the control ramp thing, is actually existing to target Grixis Midrange. And Go for the Throat is really bad against that deck, though it kills other things in the format that are, very good. We're playing 4 Braids, mostly as a response to the blue-red ramp deck, but also Anvil decks are still floating around. And there are others like Artifact, Power Stone Ramp, cards that are still doing really well, and being able to take out a Reckoner Bankbuster in the mid-range mirrors, being able to take out a Mightstone and Weakstone in the ramp mirrors, and just being a solid 1-for-1 removal spell, a Braid is exactly where we want to be with this deck. Our counter spell suite is 3 Make Disappear and 2 Negate. I don't really like playing the 4th Make Disappear because it gets worse as time goes on. We rarely are able to actually use the Casualty, or really want to use the Casualty, because all of our cards, like Wandering Mind, applies pressure in the air, Corpse Praise is really solid, and it sucks, like sacrificing a 3-power creature for Make Disappear, etc. All of our cards are very good and remain good because if you get a Flip Fable, the Mirror Breaker, you copy any of these cards and you can get massive advantage. So you rarely want to use Casualty, so really it's just a slightly worse mana leak with possible upside you can choose for it to have. But the point stands that it's pretty bad the later the game goes and the more mana enters the battlefield. And this deck grinds out long games really often. And we're playing 2 Negate because a lot of the cards that we're afraid of and a lot of the cards that are very good against us are non-creature spells. And especially for the mirror match, you notice that there are a ton of non-creature spells. If you negate an Invoke Despair in the mirror, it's amazing. If you negate a Mightstone and Weakstone, if you are able to negate even something like the Wandering Emperor or Wedding Announcement, it's all very good and much better later than Make Disappear is. As far as our card advantage suite goes, we have these Invoke Despairs, which we already talked about, but we're also playing 4 Reckoner Bankbuster. This is sort of the premier draw card, long-term card advantage card in the format. You're able to draw a card off, or you're able to draw 3 cards off of it over the course of 3 turns after you play it, and then you get something that can automatically crew it, and you can start attacking for 4, or even attack for 4 earlier. So when we play Reckoner Bankbuster, again, it's very good against these decks that we plan on going super long against. As far as our creature pseudo card advantage suite, I guess Fable is together with both of these categories. Fable the Mirror Breaker, we get a 2/2, so it's a creature. We get some card selection in its second chapter, which is amazing. And then it flips into Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, in copying either Blood Tithe Harvester, if you copy a Blood Tithe Harvester, the copy gets haste and you get another blood token. So it becomes a removal spell on a stick, right? Because you can just like sack the copy immediately, which is amazing. Wandering Mind means they get to get more cards. Corpse Appraiser means to get more cards and more graveyard hate. Like, the flipped Reflection of Kiki-Jiki is one of the most powerful things you can do with this deck. Either removal spell on a stick or card advantage on a stick is truly incredible, besides the mana ramp and the creature that the rest of this card does. As far as our creature suite goes, we're playing 4 Blood Tithe Harvester. Blood Tithe Harvester being card selection on a stick. It has really good power and toughness for its cost. I mean, a 3/2 for 2, which is awesome. And and it can be a removal spell on a stick if we really want it to be. Fulfilling those 3 roles all at once in one card makes it an amazing mid-range card. Even though it doesn't give us advantage, it can answer something 1-for-1 and provide this card selection. Playing 3 Wandering Mind and 2 Corpse Appraiser. Previous versions of the deck just played 4 Corpse Appraiser and called it good. The issue with Corpse Appraiser is that you want to be able to play one of these cards on turn 3 and start applying pressure and starting getting this advantage. And very often with the deck, there's no creature in the graveyard come turn 3. But having it as graveyard hate and being able to do, when you're able to do what you want with Corpse Appraiser, it's very, very good. But we're playing 3 Wandering Mind as well. Wandering Mind is just reveal top 6. You get a non-creature, non-land, which is totally fine in this version of the deck because there's not a lot of creatures in the deck. And you put it in your hand. It's just card advantage, and we get to start applying pressure with Wandering Mind. Corpse Appraiser, as you look at Corpse Appraiser, is you need to exile a creature from the graveyard. If you do that, you look at the top 3, put 1 into your hand and the rest in the graveyard. So there's no restriction with Corpse Appraiser, which is why a lot of people think it's a little bit better. But we want to play Wandering Mind because we get to look at more. Even though we're restricted on what we can select, we can cast it on turn 3 and don't need a creature in the graveyard. As far as our sideboard goes, Disdainful Stroke is obviously good against decks that are going big mana. Specifically, that isn't ramp deck. And we're going to side it in against decks that we struggle with their big mana cards. We're playing a negate again because these mid-range matchups are mostly non-creature focused, and is very good against these control decks that are trying to target us, like the blue-red ramp deck, like the actual control deck in the format, etc., etc. Cut Down is our aggro deterrent. We are playing it to beat the aggro decks like Soldiers and Mono Red. We are playing 2 Duress. Duress is mostly for the control decks of the format, like the Izzet control deck, or even the mono-white mid-range deck. I think Duress is pretty good against. Go for the Throat. We side in against any deck that has a slew of creatures that are not like artifacts. So I don't like it in the mirror match because we have plenty of removal for their stuff. But we sided against Esper midrange, the aggro decks, but just not the Izzet ramp deck or the control deck or anything. Henrika. Henrika is really solid when we are trying to grind with our opponents, right? So it exists as a removal spell, it exists as a draw card, lose 1 life, and then we can transform it into something that either blocks really, really strong or helps us gain a ton of life. So Henrika, we're siding in against anything we expect to go really long and expect to grind with. At its absolute worst, even if they don't have a creature, remember, you have to select one that hasn't been chosen. You can choose Transform before the last time. So you can just play it, draw a card, lose 1 life, and then transform into something that can apply a ton of pressure, and that is totally okay. And we're playing Foresight and Insight, where we get to look at the top 2 cards of our opponent's library, exile one of them face down and the other on the bottom of that library, and you can look and play the exiled card for as long as it remained exiled, and you can spend mana as though there's any mana of any color to cast that spell. This is our mid-range breaker. We are siding this in against other mid-range decks so we can take their mid-range cards that are good against us. So similar to Henrika, we are siding this in against any matchup we think is going to go very long, so like the mirror match, Esper midrange, mono white midrange, that kind of stuff. So hopefully this examination of Grixis Midrange is helpful. I really hope you liked the video. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias, especially Discord, Twitter, and Twitch, which I try to stream pretty much every day. But good luck in Standard, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.